All right, so adding integers. We can add integers using integer chips, which we've already talked about. We can also use a number line. And there's really one big rule when you're using a number line. Start at 0, add from there. All right, so I mean, a couple examples, right? We can have a horizontal number line like this one here. We can have a vertical number line like the one below here. Works the same with any of them. We're always going to start our first arrow at 0 and go from there. Now, let's look at what that means. So on a horizontal number line, a positive integer means that the arrow is going to go to the right. A negative integer, arrow is going to go to the left. So let's take a look here. So positive 4 plus positive 2. Now, I know you can tell me without really thinking that this is positive 6, but let's look at how this looks on our number line. So positive 4, arrow starts at 0, comes up to here. What I should do is write above this that this is positive 4. And I don't want you to say that this is plus 4. This is this positive sign and this addition symbol, we read them differently. I know they look the same, but we read them differently. This is positive 4 plus positive 2. All right, so we've got positive 4 and we have positive 2. And look, we ended up right at positive 6 on our number line. So this is equal to positive 6. The only reason we put these brackets around it, they're not order of operations brackets. They're just to help us see that that positive number is there and that we are referring to an integer here. That's all that's looking at. All right, we've got negative 5 plus negative 3. So again, we start our first arrow at 0, go down to negative 5, and it's a negative number, so the arrow goes this direction, goes to the left. Negative sign. Again, this is negative 5, it's not minus 5. I know with temperature we sometimes say that. When we're talking about integers in math, we are going to say negative 5 plus negative 3. The nice thing about doing these arrows on a number line also is that if we've drawn our number line correctly, or the number line is nicely to a nice scale, the length of the arrows corresponds to the size of the numbers. And we end up at negative 8 here, so negative 5 plus negative 3 is equal to negative 8. You could probably imagine this with integer chips as well, right? If you have 5 of the negative integer chips and you add 3 more negative integer chips, you end up with 8 of the negative integer chips. Okay, let's look at the next one here. Positive 2 plus negative 4. All right, so here we draw our first arrow starting right at 0. And it's positive 2 long. Then we draw our second arrow starting at the head of the first one, and it's going to go negative 4 this way. Where do we end up at? Well, we end up at negative 2. So positive 2 plus negative 4 is equal to negative 2. You could do the same thing with integer chips. You'd have the same sum. Negative 6 plus positive 6. So our negative 6, it starts at 0. We go, all the way down, negative 6 this direction. And then we draw our second arrow above it. Positive 6. And we end up at 0. All right, so negative 6 plus positive 6 equals 0. All right, now you may have already noticed a pattern here, and there is a pattern. All right, if we have a positive and a positive, or a negative and a negative. So when we're adding two integers with the same sign, all we're going to do is add the numbers and keep the sign. All right, so we'll look at some more examples here, but if you think back to example number 2 up here, right? -5 plus -3. Well, add the numbers. 5 plus 3 is 8. Keep the sign. It's negative. Our first example, right? +4 plus +2. Add the numbers. 4 plus 2 is 6. Keep the sign. They're positive. All right. When we're adding two integers with different signs, what we're actually going to do is we are going to subtract the numbers. Oh, that is the worst U I've ever drawn. Subtract the numbers and use the sign of the larger number. All right, and again, thinking back to this one here, right, where we had +2 and -4. Whoops. That's going away, but that's okay. +2 plus -4. So subtract the numbers. 4 minus 2. And we end up with 2. Keep the sign of the larger number. The larger number was the -4. And our sign is negative. And our answer is -2. Okay. In this case here, pretty easy. We subtract the numbers. 6 minus 6. This is kind of an exception to the rule, right? We don't have a 6 minus 6 is 0. Right, because we subtract the numbers and use the sign of the larger number. Well, again, they're both the same size. We don't need to write a sign for 0. We don't have to say it's +0 or -0 or something like that. All right, a few show you knows here. Most of these I assume you can do without a number line, but if you want to draw a number line for one of them, that would be excellent. I'll be getting you to do number lines for your assignments. So pause it, give these a try. I'll quickly pop the answers onto the video in a moment here, but pause it first, please. All right, so I'm not going to show my work. I'm just going to give answers at this point. We can discuss work in class on Thursday. All right, so +10, -10, -4, and -7. All right, some examples here then. Temperature in Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories one morning in October was -4 degrees Celsius. Temperature increased by 9 degrees Celsius to reach the high temperature for that day. What was that high temperature? So here we've got -4 plus +9. And we are going to come up with our solution here. Again, we could use the number line or we could use our rule. So if we did this on our number line, let's go back. I'll just, you can draw your own or we can use one of these on the very first page. So we start -4. And then we've got plus +9. So we go -4, and we go 9 up from there. There we go. All right. And our final answer, we ended up here at +5. So our answer for this question, eventually, there we go. Our answer for this question is going to be +5 degrees Celsius. All right, now your assignment for this section, again, this is section 9.2. Let's try to get, there we go. So this is page, this is also in your booklet that you've got at home, but page 319, and again, remember this is section 9.2, so if you've got one of the Goofy textbooks, your page will be just ahead of 319, but it won't be right on that. Page 319, day 1, you're supposed to do questions 5 to 8, and then 1 and 2, day 2, You're working on questions 9 to 17 and then 3 and 4. Wonderful. Thank you. Have fun.